All right, welcome in. My name is PJ, and with me is David. David, how's it going, bud?
It's going good, man.
Good. We're going to talk a little Blazers today. Big trade came down not too long ago with Alan Crabbe heading over to the Brooklyn Nets, and we had Summer League. It was not too long ago, so we're kind of in the slow part of the season right now, just before camps are going to be starting here. But there's plenty of news going around, plenty of rumors and stuff. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of where the Blazers sit in some of those rumors. But we're going to start out with a little Alan Crabbe. So Alan Crabbe was traded to the Brooklyn Nets, or the Brooklyn Nets. I keep wanting to call them the New Jersey Nets still for some reason, so I got to
It's
catch
easy to
myself.
do
So
that.
yeah, so the Brooklyn Nets, they are, that was the team that signed him last year to that big contract. So what are your thoughts when when the announcement came for Alan Crabbe?
I was a little shocked that they were able to move such a contract that high, but I think in the end it was really good for the team. We shed somewhere around close to 40 million or 50 million for the next year, so I think it's good. But we didn't get better though. We didn't get better by doing that in terms of on the court talent.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we heard a lot about when people were talking about kind of the off season and trying to get the luxury tax down, and the draft, and using draft picks to try to trade some of these high contracts. Is that Neil O'Shea came out and said that they're not looking to just shed money, that it's something that they're looking to get better next year, not necessarily just to get out of contract. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know. My own personal feeling is that I think that there's got to be something else there. I don't think that this definitely doesn't make the team better. He was their best scorer off the bench. He as outside shooting, now that really only leaves Dame and CJ as the outside shooters, who are consistent outside shooters. So I think that there's a real big hole there to spread the floor. So I think it's kind of an interesting move, and I think it has to be a precursor to some other move going on for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, there definitely could be something else, but I just feel like the shooting, like you said, that really kind of slumped. But now maybe because we have that open roster spot, that kind of brings everybody up in terms of their position and time on the court. Maybe Layman might do something, but Connaughton. But I mean, who wants to see those guys get Alan Crabbe minutes? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's kind of the interesting. Did you see enough out of either Layman or Pat during summer league to make any decisions that, hey, they are part of the future of the team, and they can kind of step into those minutes? We'll kind of talk overall about the summer league in a couple minutes, but I didn't really see anything. Layman, he didn't really shoot all that well. He's got a pretty good all around game, but I don't think he's going to replace Crabbe's shooting. And Pat Connaughton had terrible, but he was playing a little bit out of position. He was playing point guard most of the time, so you didn't really get to see, kind of what he could do as just an off-the-ball shooter. He played pretty well last year, but Summer League didn't leave you anything with any kind of confidence in what they'd be able to bring next year.
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't. I definitely love Layman's all-around game, but his shot is shoddy, to say the best. Um, so I really, it gives us options because we do have that empty roster spot, but and shedding salary, which is nice because we have Vonleh and Nurkic to worry about this coming summer. But I think right now we're in the perfect storm in the sense that we don't know exactly what Neil Olshey's going to do. He said he wasn't going to shed salary. He just shed salary. We're in the dog days of summer.
Yeah. So kind of a couple interesting things that this, you kind of talked about the roster spot that it opens up. It also opens up about a $12 million salary cap exemption. So that means that the Blazers could take in a trade up to $12 million without sending any money back. Couple stipulations on that. Obviously, you can't partner that with any players outgoing in the same trade, so they couldn't partner that with like Myers Leonard and take up a larger salary or anything. But what it
Or
does
like
give
an
you
Ed Davis or something.
yeah. So you can't add it to a player, but it does give them the opportunity if maybe one of these contracts where maybe it's a younger shooter that they could take him back and not have to put out any salary, maybe include a first round pick to get somebody who may be worth that. So I mean, it does leave them with some options. It also gives them the opportunity to be a third team in a deal where maybe a team doesn't want to take back a veteran who has a $12 million salary, and Portland could take that back without really sending anything out. So kind of becomes Rafe LaFrente's expiring contract from a few years ago. But it's just something. It's something that Portland it gives them another tool, and you don't know if that's something they're going to use this summer or if they're going to kind of wait until the trade deadline to maybe be able to use that. But it's good for a year, so it's good all the way through from trade deadline to next year's draft through the beginning of free agency next year. So that is definitely probably of everything that came out of it, that's probably the most valuable thing that they got. And then the roster spot, I would think, would be the second thing.
Yeah, I definitely believe that we should be getting a veteran for that roster spot. I was actually seeing a couple things here and there about Gerald Henderson coming back and being that veteran presence, maybe off the bench playing, 17, 21 minutes, somewhere around there off the bench. And I kind of like that move. He has a nice all-around game. He can create his own shot. And we got younger this year, so I really think that Gerald Henderson could be a really good mentor. And for the cheap, too.
Yeah, and he is a good player, but I don't know if he really fits with what the Blazers need. He doesn't have any outside shooting, so that would be my only question. As far as the veteran aspect of it, he would be great. He already has ties with Portland. He's been here before. He kind of knows a lot of the players and kind of how to play with them and everything. But I just don't know if he's going to affect the outside shooting and spacing. Swanigan, did pretty well in summer league. I mean, he wasn't. I think he was probably about 38%, I believe, is what he shot on threes. So he has the ability to stretch the floor a little bit, and Collins definitely showed that he has the ability to stretch the floor as well. Don't know how much playing time he's going to get with some of the factors that he had during summer league, but it's going to be an interesting offseason, and then the kind of the elephant in the room right now is Carmelo Anthony, and all the talk about what's going to happen with him, where's he going to end up. Portland, Neil O'Shea came out and said that he's not looking to facilitate Carmelo Anthony to the Houston Rockets, or he said to anybody in the Western Conference it's going to make them better, because why would you want to do that? And when you look at a guy that they're talking about Portland getting back, and Ryan Anderson, he doesn't really. I mean, he does provide outside shooting, but at about $21 million a year, that's a pretty hefty contract when you just got rid of Alan Crabbe, and you're trying to maybe move that luxury tax down.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Anderson on the offensive side would be an amazing fit, and like you said, the contract just doesn't bode well when you figure you have to play on both sides of the court, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing on the other side, namely defense. He would have that open shot when Dame and CJ attack the basket, but that's about all he's good for. He's just a 6'11" Alan Crabbe.
Exactly.
With worse defense.
Yes. And, defensively is where the Portland really needs to get better, and he doesn't do anything for that. So I think it would be, without something else, some other compensation coming back, I just don't – if Portland was willing to take him back, it would already be done. So I just don't see that as being being something that is going to happen where it's just him coming back. You look at something where maybe they can get, maybe Courtney Lee or, someone from Houston, maybe one of the younger players, or maybe a draft pick or something like that. Maybe that's what Neil O'Shea is kind of holding out for, is to get something else. But, he says he doesn't want to facilitate. He says he would like to get Carmelo here. You've heard Dame and CJ kind of, made their pitches to Carmelo, and nothing's changed. And I have a feeling this is probably going to go on for quite a while, unless something dramatically changes in as far as an offer from one team. I don't think that this is really going to change until camp gets a little bit closer. There's really no reason to do it at this point until camp gets closer. And the pressure gets put on a little bit. But once Carmelo maybe has to make that decision on it's either staying in New York or opening up the teams that he'll go to because Houston just doesn't have the assets, then maybe something will finally happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Melo went to New York because of the money. We all know that, and now he's acting as if he needs to escape to Houston potentially. But like you said, he can't go to Houston just because he wants to go to Houston. There's a lot of pieces that need to be moved, and Houston really doesn't have those types of things to do that, and they need that third party, and we are not going to be a part of that. We do not need Melo in the Western Conference. So I'm with Olshey on that one. Don't move too quickly on that. In fact, don't move at all.
Yep. Especially if it's not going to make Portland significantly better. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to help out another team in the Western Conference unless it's there's something really in it for your team. So, kudos to Neil to holding strong, and I'm sure playing the media and everything a little bit with all this talk about wanting to get in on Carmelo Anthony and getting him to Portland. I don't know how much of that is actually true or how much he actually thinks Carmelo could come to Portland. But kudos to him for trying to play that up and play that angle and try to put some more pressure on Houston and maybe up their what they're willing to give, because they don't want to give their bench is terrible right now. They have Gordon, and he was sixth man of the year last year. Trevor Ariza coming off the bench. They have Clint Capella starting, and then they have
Beverly's
Nene.
gone.
Yeah, Beverly's gone, so they have Nene and Capella up front. So they don't really have a lot outside of Harden and Chris Paul. So if they have to get rid of Ariza or if they have to get rid of Gordon, that's really going to hurt their bench. So that's what they're trying to avoid. But it sounds like that's what it's going to take in order for Houston to be able to make a deal. So I'm sure they're scouring to try to find some guys that they can sign on the cheap, maybe strengthen their bench a little bit, and then maybe one of those guys will become available. I think they signed Mabut. I can't remember. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He played for the Clippers, so they signed him. So he could be a possible substitution for Trevor Ariza if they end up having to give up Trevor Ariza. So. That's one of the guys that they kind of picked up. So if they can pick up a couple more of those guys, strengthen their bench a little bit, then those guys become a little bit more expendable.
Yeah, absolutely. Mamba Mute is not going to be a star in any sense of the word off the bench, so we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
When we play Houston.
Yes. Okay. So there's kind of the Allen Crabbe, some of the implications of what's going to happen or what could happen with Portland. It's going to be an interesting off season. Could lead up into the actual season. See if Portland makes any more moves. But one of the things that Portland was doing in order to get stronger during this summer was through the draft, and they got a couple of guys, and we got to see them firsthand during the summer league. So we got to see Zach Collins, and we got to see Biggie out there. So Biggie showed out very well. He's first team all summer league, so it was good to see his performance out there. What did you think of Biggie's performance?
I fell in love with the guy's motor. He never quit on any possession, whether it was offense or defense. He was always going up for boards. He was boxing out. He was making the right appropriate cuts. He was shooting when needed. He really played really well. The only knock I can say on his game is he needs to get into a little better shape. He needs to be more agile. He needs to make quicker lateral movements for defense. Other than that, I love what he showed.
Yeah, it was interesting. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Ed Davis, kind of his hustle and motor, but he has a little bit of offensive skill. He can shoot from outside, and he's definitely a very good passer for a big man. We got to see a little bit of him in the high post, making some passes, and that was awesome to see. Kind of what he could do. He could go down in the low post. So he kind of showed a varied arsenal of what he could do. And so it was really good to see that from him. offensively, he's not going to be a go-to guy.
Just had to reboot
he's definitely a good player. When you got a guy like Damon and CJ and Nurkic out there, he's a good guy to maybe pair out there. So I think there's a good chance that he could become the starter, if not at the beginning of the year, maybe part of the way through, because he brings all of the intangibles that you need.
So we got
He
Swan
showed the ability
again,
to
maybe
go
some
out
Lonzo
in
Ball
the perimeter and play
Kirk
defense
Cousins
against
and
wings.
Le'Veon Bell.
Being able to switch and taking on some wing players. So
so we'll probably start with
Swan
again if you
don't
have
anything
expectations
of him being a superstar, but I think he's going to be very, very good bench player slash
championship, and then go to football after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it should be good.
I don't know what's going on with the audio here.
You're good. So maybe we could try another one at some point. We could try the green screen. So yeah, we got to see the Blazers Summer League team, down in Vegas. We saw.
I hear two of you.
A little bit more graphically based.
Right.
Because you can leave like your desk and stuff, but just cut out the background and everything like that.
Right.
See how that looks.
So I'll throw the green screen in the washer tonight.
I heard I'll throw the green screen in the washer tonight. I don't know what I'm hearing.
How you been doing, PJ, man? You kind of scared me, man. Thought you was down.
Yeah. All right, is that better?
Yeah, now it's crystal clear. It went out 2 minutes ago. I kept hearing two different conversations. I was like, what?
Yeah. So Blazers Summer League. Swanigan did well. We talked about that, but we talk about Zach Collins. He hurt during Summer League. When he did play offensively, his shot wasn't on. You did see a little bit where he could play in the post, but I think the biggest thing for me was just that you could just tell that the game was a little bit too much for him right out of the gate. He got pushed around by bigger bodies, any hope that Blazer fans had of him stepping in and becoming an impact player right away, I think were dispelled a little bit during Summer League. He's still got a little bit to go. He didn't even start for Gonzaga, so he's a player that still has some growing to do. He was just a freshman, so when he came out, so I think Summer League kind of maybe pumped the brakes a little bit on Zach Collins, and he did have some good things. Defensively, he did play pretty well, protecting the rim, but again, his physical, he's got to get stronger down in the post.
Yeah, he definitely does. I really wish players like him would realize that an extra year in college will do wonders to somebody like that has so much potential, because he wasn't the main man for the Gonzaga team last year. It was that big center that I can't pronounce his name worth a hell. He was coming off the bench playing 17 minutes behind him. Now, that big old center that they had, he was a senior. He was going to be gone, and most analysts were thinking that Collins was going to take over the center position full time, and I think we really would have seen what he's capable of doing, and he would have been a little bit more seasoned to ready to go for the Summer League. But for what it is, we have him now, and he does have some defensive potential, like you just pointed out. His offense definitely has potential, but he needs to hit the ignition again, because the brakes are pumped.
Yeah, and so moving on to the two other real, impact players for the Summer League as far as the Blazers are concerned were Jake Layman and Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton got his guaranteed or partially guaranteed contract. They pushed back the date, so give him a little bit more time. Not sure if that has anything to do with possible trades that are coming up, but gave them a little bit more time to make a decision on Pat Connaughton. We talked about it a little bit before. I didn't see much from Pat Connaughton, and that says to me we need to keep him. He probably plays a little bit better in a more structured offense. Summer League can kind of get a little rat ball, so that's not where he necessarily thrives. He he wouldn't be asked to do a lot of the things on the Blazers team that he had to do in summer league. So he kind of fit that role as a shooter last year, coming off the bench when Crabbe wasn't hitting, or they needed someone else. So maybe in that limited role he would still be able to do that. But I didn't really see anything from summer league that kind of gives me hope for long-term success for Connaughton.
I fell in love with Connaughton's vertical at the Combine years ago, but that's about all I've fallen in love with him. Yeah, he can play kind of all around. I do like his style. He's a bit undersized, but I think he needs to go throw some baseballs.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting as the decision on him is coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So we'll know probably by then whether or not he's going to be part of the long-term future of Portland. Given that they already have a roster spot, it wouldn't surprise me if they kept him at this point, just because then they would have two roster spots that they'd have to fill. But maybe they can go out and find another shooter on a cheap contract if they want. But when you got a guy there who knows the offense and knows all the players, then maybe they just keep him around. And then we have Jake Layman. We talked about him a little bit as well. All-around game, I think Layman's pretty good. Not great by any means. His shot was not falling. His form looks good. It just wasn't falling for him. But other than that spurt at the beginning of last year when he came in junk time and hit about 3 threes, and everyone was calling for Jake Layman all year. Really haven't seen any one skill that Jake Layman exceeds at. So, he's a guy that probably want to give him at least another year to kind of see what you can get from him. They say the biggest jump is from year 1 to year 2. So, it'd be interesting to kind of see where he ends up at, if he can get some playing time now that Crabbe is gone. Because he is somewhat of an outside shooter, so if he can get some time, at the 3 maybe, or as a stretch 4, then maybe he can find a little niche there. Nothing too impressive. He did score pretty well in a variety of ways, which was kind of encouraging. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to put the ball on the floor like he did in summer league when he gets to the NBA.
Yeah, those defenses get a little bit more tightened, and it's not so loosey-goosey out there. So, I don't know. I'd like to see him play stretch 4 a little bit. I mean, we were doing that with Aminu a little bit. I know we weren't that great when we were doing it, but I like his motor, and I kind of like to see a couple minutes at him with the stretch 4.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, it's really hard, though, with, now with Collins and Aminu. Ed Davis is probably going to be more of a 5 at this point. Aminu there, and even they put Mo Harkless down at the stretch 4 at some points. So, you don't really know, how many minutes there are going to be available at the 4. It looks like most of it, especially with Crabbe gone, all available minutes are probably going to be at the 3. The backcourt's looking a little bit thin right now, with really Connaughton and, maybe a little bit of, CJ playing the 1 again, and, Connaughton playing some 2, and, you don't really know kind of what that lineup is going to look like come season time. But it looks like most of the minutes are going to be available at the 3 next year.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Turner there, and we're just going to see an interesting Terry Stotts lineups. I think for the first 20 games, he's going to be trying to figure out what works best. And honestly, that's my favorite part of the favorite time of the year is seeing how the coach finds those pieces to the puzzle that he so desperately wants, and it'll be a very interesting season for sure.
Yeah, especially with Nurkic, for such a short time last year, they're still going to have to work him into the offense, but he does a pretty good job of just kind of fitting in and, helping the offense flow. He's not one of those guys that, you have to just dump it down to him in the block and he's just going to hold it and do those kind of things. He can kind of create, and he's a very good passer for a big man. So, the offense kind of flows with him in there. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of combinations. I do look forward to seeing if Collins, can gain some weight over this this offseason and can make an impact maybe as the 4 or 5, and then, having Biggie down there and maybe seeing him start, or if Amino's made any progress over the offseason. And then, if there's any trades, is Mo Harkless headed to New York, or, he seems to be the most likely traded at this point, besides maybe Myers-Leonard, because Portland would love to get rid of Myers-Leonard. But other than that, I think that Harkless is the commodity that most people are after. So, if something's going to go down, it's probably going to be with Mo Harkless. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how a rotation would pan out with that.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if he gets shipped out. But I am kind of under the gun when it comes to who I'd like to see leave, and I wouldn't want to see Myers-Leonard leave just yet. I know I'd probably get a bunch of crap for it, but I mean, yeah, I know. But I look back at that season where he did 50, 40, 90, and the potential. He just he's stressful. Trust me, he's stressful, but to watch. But what he has for capabilities is through the roof. He just needs to put it together, and I feel like maybe Swanigan and CJ and Dame. Now Crabbe is out; he's not going to be taking as many shots. They're probably going to get more shots. I think maybe it's going to open up the game a little bit for him, slow it down for him. Maybe his role will finally get unlocked this season. I don't know, but I don't want Myers-Leonard to leave.
Yeah, the biggest thing for him is I just don't think he has the mental makeup to do it. He shrinks too much, and I just don't know at this point, when you've seen it for this many years, I just don't know if there's any way of getting around that. When you go back and look at him in his first summer league, he played aggressive, he played above the rim, he did a lot of things that you would like to see him do now, and just he's taken so many steps backwards, and it's not physical. He's got the physical tools to do it. It's all mental. So I just don't see him having the ability to get over that. And I think, it would not surprise me if a trade kind of sparked him to maybe make some changes and to maybe get over the hump. But I just don't think that he's going to be able to do it here. There's too many gaps and too many old memories and stuff for him to make it here.
No, I completely get your point. I just feel like when I see him going against some of the better bigs, namely Boogie, he really steps up his game. Maybe not offensively like he should be able to at this point in his career, like you just said, but at least defensively, he gets in their ear, he gets in their mind, which is very ironic.